have coming up an expert speaker, Dr. T.V. Rao, who will be speaking about the post-pandemic skill sets for HR professionals to be transformational leaders. Dr. T.V. Rao is the chairman of T.V. Rao Learning Systems Private Limited with over 42 years of extensive work in the field of HRD. Dr. T.V. Rao is one of the fathers of HRD in India. And in his speech, Dr. T.V. Rao will speak about the post-pandemic skill sets for HR professionals to be transformational leaders. Please welcome onto the stage Dr. T.V. Rao.
Thank you. Can you hear? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon to everyone. Are you enjoying? Great. This is my first visit to Maldives. And I wondered why I didn't come 25 years earlier. Thank you, Afif, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. My encounters in the last 3 days have been fantastic, and it got me to think of a number of things for Maldives. The first encounter was with a boatman in the resort I was staying. This boatman, we were just inquiring about his business, and he told all about Maldives, and very proudly. First thing he said, you know, we are a proud country with 1,100 islands. You can't experience this in 3 days. You have to keep coming back and back. 1,200. Don't worry, but I think he has his own knowledge, he has his own way of presenting things. Me and my wife were totally sold, and then we asked him, where do we stay? There are 180 options that are available for you to stay. And then he talked of, I think, how Bollywood film stars visited, how he interacted with Hrithik Roshan and his children. I'm sure most of you know Hrithik Roshan? Yeah, and how he interacted. And I think both of us were thoroughly impressed. This is a boatman who has a shop and who rents out boats for various sports. And if this is what one Maldivian can do for Maldives, how much can 5 lakh people do for Maldives? Wonderful. That is, I think, what is possible when I thought of this. And I thought that Afif has played a trick on you all. And the trick is, if you want to build Maldivian to be globally competitive, you should take all of them to different countries and see and feel proud what is it that you have and what is it that others don't have. I think that's a good way, but he thought of a very interesting way in which he can expose you without you going anywhere, because already you are 180 islands, I think you are living in different places. He said, let me get at least 7-8 people from different countries and bring them here, so that a large number, 350 people, it's difficult to transport 350 people. Already you get transported every day from island to island. So I think this is a very wise thing that Afif has done to get us all, and you know in 2 days what different people think from different parts of the world and how much common they have. I think by now you may have realized that we are talking very, very similar things. Empathy, gratefulness, learning attitude, HR's role. I think you find, I think whatever you talk, we are more or less on the same kind of level. And this is one interesting experience. I contrast this with another interesting experience I had in my own country. And this was immediately after the pandemic. You know, before pandemic, one fine morning, somebody referred to March 20th. We also have more or less the same date when the Prime Minister of India said that, look, I think everything will stop. You cannot go out. You should wear masks. No physical contact and all those kind of things. All that happened. And then we have in many companies in India the migratory labor problem. People come, I think, like I have seen this in Maldives, a lot of Bangladeshis, a lot of Nepalese, a lot of a few Sri Lankans I have seen. People from different parts of the world come and work here. The same thing happens within a country. In India, you have people coming from different parts of the country. So the moment this was announced, everyone started going back to their home. And there were a lot of stories. If by chance you followed about 2-3 years ago what was happening in the country, I think the kind of unrest that took place because people were wanting to go travel thousands of miles to reach their places. Quite unlike here, they don't have boats, they have to go by the road. And some of them started walking for 1,500 kilometers. And that is what happened. And one of the companies, a pharma company with about 200 managers and another 300 supervisory staff and about 1,500 daily wage laborers, or what we call, we have our own terms, they were all there. That company got permission post-pandemic to open up. And the CEO of the company asked the HR manager, now we are ready to begin. And when the CEO said that we are ready to begin, the HR manager said, but I don't have people. What do you mean you don't have people? Write to them, get them, fetch them. And the HR manager said, sorry, I don't know where they live. What a surprise. He did not know where they live because they are all called as contract laborers. He is only in touch with the contractor. And contractor didn't have much of an idea of where they live. You don't want to be in this situation. We have to learn from the failures of other people. So this is, I think, a great lesson for HR people, how not to be a HR person and how not to limit your role to say, I am only bothered about employees. Post-pandemic, my point of view is going to be that you are not only concerned about employees, your role has become a lot more. HR people's role has become a lot more. You are human resource development, management, whatever you call it. You are a people manager for all stakeholders. I will say that begins with the customer. This boatman is not an employee, and still he is not a HR guy. He sold his country to us. Very interesting kind of a thing. So imagine what a HR person should be doing in terms of projecting the kind of things that are there. So the first contact, the first job of HR person, I mean, this is where I want to go a step ahead of whatever you heard. Many of us talk, we are focusing on employees. I think I would start by saying a good HR person starts with customers. That is the focus. You have to treat all. If you don't know your customer, how can you serve your employee? So first know your customer, understand. Number two, then go to your work. The third thing, post-pandemic, we suddenly discovered that HR people suddenly during pandemic have done a different role altogether. They were told you are saviors. You have to take care of hygiene. You have to take care of health. You have to make medical facilities available for people. So get all the doctors possible. Convert if manufacturing is going on. Put a doctor in the... So HR people have become medical professionals, health educators, and not only for employees. They said that you go to the community and talk to the community because they are all living in community and you can't afford to lose people by COVID-19. So they started doing community work. They started looking at space and related issues. They started looking at transportation. So I think the role suddenly got enriched to be saviors of people. And then when the companies opened up, people started saying, where is employment? So you are not only in terms of saving people, you are also providers of employment. So I have created now for most of the HR managers in India, I keep saying, your role is not anymore the traditional role of managing employees. You also have to manage your CEOs. In the sense, you should think ahead of your CEO because most of the CEOs are busy managing the government, managing international relations, managing and looking at what is happening globally and things like that. But you as a HR person, you are in touch, if you are in touch with customers, I think you are totally in a different world. So you are an employment provider. You are a savior in terms of health. So you are far better than the doctor. The doctor is only looking at the health of people, whereas you are not only looking at the health, but you are also looking at the economic well-being of the person and so on. So that is what is a wonderful kind of a thing that creates a new role for HR managers. Having started this, I would like to say, who is a HR manager? Is it somebody who has a 2-year degree in HR or everyone else? Very recently, there was an interesting WhatsApp message that was getting circulated. I don't know if by any chance any one of you have seen, of an interview with a girl. And the girl was asked a question about her experience. She said that I have carried about 8 to 9 years of experience of managing something which I think wonderful, which even you as a male manager cannot manage. And then she talked of all the work that she has done as a child. I think that we heard Shrija talking about this this morning. I think very, very interestingly. She narrated all this. So there is a thought now that in the CV of women employees, we should be putting this as an important criteria, because in my view, number one HR manager is the mother. And I think the mother as a HR manager, nobody can, she does unparalleled work without expecting anything in return. You can see that. And it goes lifetime. So there is so much to learn from mother. So if mother is a HR manager, if HR managers have to be salespeople, what happens to you and I? I think we all have got to be people managers. That is where I have given a new definition. In fact, I keep joking when people introduce me as the father of HRD in India. It so happens that in 1974, myself and my colleague Uday Parikh is no more. He died about 12 years ago. Uday Parikh, we started the first ever human resource development department in this part of the world. I think in the world. I have not come across anyone who said prior to 1974 they had a HRD department. We created this department because most of the employees we talked to in this company, Larsen and Toubro, were very unhappy with the personnel department. They said, we come here to be happy, and what personnel department does is they do many things which make us unhappy. So can you therefore create a new department which takes care of building our commitment? Some of them said, you look at our faces when we take the company bus to come to the company at 9 o'clock in the morning. We are reluctantly coming. And see our faces at 5 o'clock. We are going happily home. Can the company reverse this experience and make the work enjoyable? Create happiness at work. If you can create happiness at work, then I think that's a wonderful thing. That's when we define a new department, called it HRD, commitment building, culture building, competence building. These are the three things. Create happiness at work. Only thing is, we didn't use the term happiness at the time. We assumed it as a part of it. But I think we have come a long way when you look at it. So that is where I have put here, the target groups of HRD have changed. It is not only employees, it is customers, it is stakeholders, it is investors, and it is not only your company, it is schools, it is colleges, it is hospitals, all communities. So if you look at HRD, now do you know that agency which looks at HRD as a totality? Everyone I mentioned, children, hospitals, everyone. Anyone who can guess? Global agency which ranks countries in terms of how long they live, what is the quality of life they have, what is the mean years of schooling they have, and all this? No one. I think you must know this, because Maldives has improved phenomenally in the last few years in what is called as Human Development Index. If people in a country can live longer, if they have a good skill base, if their quality of life is good, and I don't know how many of you know, you top the South Asian countries, far higher. India ranks 139 out of 185 countries, and you rank 95 in this. And you have improved between 95 and 2020 phenomenally on Human Development Index. That means you know how to live longer, you have skill base, and you have a whole lot of things. That is a wonderful thing. That is why I say the target groups of HR are changing. And the good news for all of you here is, irrespective of what profession you are a HR person, you are a people manager. I won't use the term HR professional because it is used in a particular kind of a context. But I would like most of you to aspire to be HR professionals so that your scope can expand and you can be even better than your CEO. Because you can do a lot more business if you know people, which your CEO may not be able to do. CHRO is more than a CEO. And the other point that we have recently been talking of is, I think this is something which happened in the just about 5-6 years ago. I happened to listen to Sadhguru, a somebody who is a mystic, lives in, he started a lot of programs of inner engineering worldwide. I think he is known. One of the talks he was giving, I heard him say, human is not a resource. I mean, somebody who founded Human Resource Department, it is striking. But I readily agreed with him. You know the reason why I agreed with him? As a secret. Because what happened in India, this is again a lesson to learn, when we started Human Resource Department, Human Resource Development Department, within a span of about 5 years, all personnel departments renamed them as Human Resource Departments. So HRD became Human Resource Development, development gone, department it became. And what were they doing? Administration, Human Resource Administration. What does administration involve? Rules, regulations, and more or less telling people, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you are eligible only for this and so on, so restrictions. It doesn't treat human being as a possibility. So Sadhguru said, I think to call somebody a human being as a resource is, of course he used the term criminal, I don't agree with him on that. It's criminal because any resource is measurable, and when you put a number on a person, you treat that person as a number, human goes off. And that is what happened, unfortunately, in some of the countries, or at least some. There are companies which are doing a good job, but you reduced human resource department to human out, development out, department came into picture, it is only resource. You treat them as numbers. Even recruitment, you treat them as numbers. So that is why I now say that treat human beings as possibilities. But having said that, I am not against resource. I say human is not a resource, but human is an unlimited resource. Not a resource. Infinity. There is no limit for resources and so on. I think that is what. Human HR is not a function. It's a set of values. I think you heard enough since yesterday morning. What are the values that HR stands for? It's a philosophy and it's a way of life. When you say learning, it becomes a way of life. So for that, we need to lift up ourselves and consider ourselves as high-level HR people, because there can be no business without people. If you look at business, all business enterprises exist to serve people. All employees exist to serve people. So therefore, human resource is a great profession to be in. New roles in the transformational world. What are some of the new roles that we think of a transformational leader? Think ahead of the CEO and top management. And you also need to think global, like what you are doing today, getting exposed to, I think, global experiences. How I think it's a great lesson for me to learn from Maldives, and that's why I started asking the question, if 5 lakh people can manage their country so well, I think it's a lesson for me. How about, in fact, when I heard this, I put a post in my LinkedIn, how about decentralization? I think this is something which we have talked for years. Decentralization. In fact, I wrote a book in 1992. I was working with Commonwealth Secretariat London. When I reviewed the human development of all Commonwealth countries and so on, I came up with this conclusion. NGOs, promoting decentralization and developing entrepreneurship in civil services. You need to make them entrepreneurial. These are 3 processes that we need to adopt, besides, I think, focusing on school children, health systems, science, technology, and things of that kind. That is what I say here. And we need to also link strategy with environment. And we need to anticipate and prevent health issues and prepare people to be agile. I think you have heard enough about it, so I wouldn't want to. I think it's all there. The competencies, new skill sets that are required. Small letters, some of you may not be able to read. The presentation will be passed on to you, but let me just say, I think most important thing that is required for everyone, all 5 lakh people in Maldives, or maybe more or less, I'm not sure. President's office should be able to tell us the actual figures. Everyone should take care of himself and herself. You are in charge, and that you have heard since yesterday. You are the most important person on this earth. You have to take care of yourself. So for HR people, survival skills. In fact, I revisited, most of you heard of Maslow's need hierarchy? You all know Maslow's need hierarchy. I am rewriting Maslow's need hierarchy. I am saying people are much simpler post-pandemic. You don't need such sophisticated 5 levels. You only need 3 levels. Level 1, survival needs. If you survive, I think health, hygiene, and all those kind of things, take care of it. Number 1. Number 2, security needs. You should be emotionally secure. We have learned it just a little while ago. You should be economically secure. You should have employment. And it is good that you are hygienic, your health is good. You also should have health security. And you have skill security. So if you have these 3 things, your security needs are taken care of. You are safe, you are secure. What you need is not any sophisticated self-actualization and all those kind of things. I'm putting all of them into one need, and that is identity need. Every human being wants to feel significant. You want to make a difference. And that significance keeps on changing. Like in the cases you have narrated, how significant went on changing. Even if you have bad experiences, you want to establish your significance and things like that. So this need to identity, develop identity, is a very, very important need. I think human beings are simple and there is not one form of identity. We are constantly searching for new identities and have multiple identities. I think this is what all HR chaps should recognize and then cater to this. So this is one skill that is required in terms of understanding people. Second skill I'm suggesting is entrepreneurship. You need to be entrepreneurial. You need to be creative. You need to be restless. I happened to work long ago, 1975, with a person by name David McClelland. Have you heard of this name? A famous psychologist. I spent a few months with him. He invited me. He was writing, in the Achieving Society. He had this very interesting theory. The economic development is caused by the kind of stories you tell children. If you tell children to be achievement driven, later they became economically highly developed. And these stories create a thought. And thought is created by language. And he demonstrated by visiting many South Asian countries quite a few times that if you develop achievement language, you can make people to be entrepreneurial and things of that kind. So this is a very significant thing that we have. I think if every HR person starts, or each one of us starts thinking entrepreneurially, I think we can conquer the whole world. The next one is we need to have vision and the global mindset, which again I think we talked of, and technology savvy we talked of. Now it'll all sound new, not new to you, because I think we have been discussing these since yesterday. And communication skills. So you can see how all the speakers are thinking very much alike. If you look at this list, I think this is all we have been talking about. This is the kind of skill set that is required for future, for making, I think, the country great and the world is a place worth living. Now, what does this mean to all of us? Number one, I would try to recommend to you, I think most of you, I don't know how many of you are HR managers, please raise your hands, professional HR managers. Good. Congratulations, because many of you who are not HR managers are here. In fact, when I shared this with my son-in-law last night, my son-in-law is the chief executive of jewelry division of Titan, Tata Group. And when I shared with this, he said, "Uncle, this is your dream. You want every person to be a HR manager, and if in Maldives you come across 350 people, out of which 80% are not HR managers and they are attending the conference, I think what else can you expect?" This is most wonderful thing to happen, because you are all HR managers, people managers, and I'm so happy. So my recommendation for you will be, try if you can acquire a little more knowledge about HR. You don't have to do a master's in HR. There are many books available. I think like all that you have been listening to various speakers, I think they are well preparing you on way to be a great HR person. So if you all become HR, 350 of you become HR managers. You know how many countries are there in the world? Less than 200 countries, right? So you multiply by another 3 or 4 times. Another 3-4 conferences, we will have 1,000 Maldivians. 5 people can go to each country. And you can transform the world. Maybe too ambitious, but don't think it is, or get the world here. because you're multiplying resorts. Get world to come here, and I think you can do a phenomenal thing. Let people come here, get transformed, and go back. I mean, that is a wonderful thing that you can do. That is the kind of, and that is the role I would recommend you. Please learn, because HR is not a rocket science. It is commonsensical, as I mentioned. If you observe mothers and study them well, you will learn a hell of a lot of HR. Hell of a lot of HR. Okay? And you look at your own role and how you have been able to manage your boss, manage your juniors, manage so many, build them up and get commitment, get engagement, get happiness, etc. So you are your own source. And then on the top of it, with a little bit of interpersonal skills, you like, I think, so many exercises. Since yesterday morning, I am seeing every speaker comes here, pair up with somebody, listen to somebody, and share something. Suppose you have already acquired that skill. You do that in life, back home. Listen to your wife, listen to your husband, listen to your children, listen to your parents and so on, and learn from them. I think it is going to be a totally different world. We are going to create that kind of a world, and this is a new role. So post-pandemic skills, if you ask me, the world has become one. Health has become very important. It is the business of everyone. Everyone is a people manager. You are your own manager. You can do wonderful things. You can make many things happen. Acquire, continuously acquire. There is not one book. Certainly you should know, if you are not a HR professional, you should know what these HR guys do. And sometimes you may have to tell them, this is not what I expect from you, because you are crippling. I want you to enlarge, empower, envision. I think we should be able to tell, or if you don't want to do it, I will do it for you. Because you are already a HR person. Like this boatman sold the country, you can sell your company, you can sell services, you can be a finance guy. I think there's some of you who are saying you started from finance and accounts, got into HR. There can't be any job without this kind of a thing. So I think this is a wonderful kind of thing. I would recommend. One of the things I have been recommending to people, that is the last slide. I have many slides. I am not going to go through all that. We'll pass this thing on to you. One of the things I have been recommending to people in general is that we should, and I was very impressed yesterday, we had an excellent presentation quoting a lot of things from Quran, and what a wonderful knowledge that is there. I think we all need to become spiritual. Spiritual does not mean religious. It could be dealing with the spirit. Human beings work with spirit. When you respect a human being, you address the spirit, not as a number. And each spirit is different from the other spirit, and that is how God has created all of us. I think that will be the day when we can say, we have done a marvelous job, and we are living in a country, and we are helping an organization to spread whatever you want to say. Spread peace, stability, and goodness, kindness, and so on. Thank you very much. It was wonderful talking to you. If you want to ask any questions, since I have another 3 minutes time as per this board, I'll be very happy to answer. Questions, comments? Yes,
I have a very simple question.
yes, sir.
Where did you get your possibility mindset from?
Where do you?
Where did you get your possibility mindset?
Well, I don't know. Yesterday there was this question, you know. Who raised this? You raised that. Heredity, nature or nurture? Nature, nurture. I think to some extent I nurtured myself. To some extent my mother, sometime I'll tell you the story of my mother. My mother was... She is not a HR. She was a daily wage laborer. She used to earn her living by doing ordinary kind of thing. But she had many avatars. She became an Ayurvedic medical doctor, then rice merchant. Then she became a political person. And she was illiterate. Hello? She didn't know how to read and write. When she died as Andhra Mahila Congress Committee General Secretary. So I now think there is some hereditary there. But I also used to rebel against her. Whenever in her political career she would tell lies, I would say, I don't want to be like you. So that is what it is. So both nature and nurture. Okay, I think any other one last question I can take. Yeah? I think there's somebody raising their hand.
Thank you very much, Professor, for a wonderful session. I would like to know your perception about the newly implemented or new perception on HR, the people and culture perception. What's your belief in this?
People and culture?
People and culture, yes.
Yes.
Now, HR, actually in the Maldives, we are transforming into HR departments into people and culture departments. What's your perception being someone who established this in our areas?
Good thought to do that. What is good in that is the people. People is not the property of anyone. People does not mean only employees, people means all. Now culture is, in fact in some of the companies it is said, culture is the next CEO. If you have strong culture in an organization or in a country, if you have strong culture, you don't need a CEO, because CEO can be. I worked in an institution called as Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, which was started by Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who started the space research in India. There are some serials which are going on which tell about Dr. Abdul Kalam worked with him very closely. Dr. Kalam acknowledges how he learned from him. Sarabhai is known for creating empowering culture. The Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, where I worked, has a culture of treating everyone as equal. Every professor has the same size room. You cannot miss a class. That is the values that has had, which got sustained for almost now 65 years since the time it started. Directors come and go, culture remains. So it's a good idea to articulate your culture, vision, values, and say that these govern this a lot more than policies. Policies are the kind of things change. So I think this is a good step, but only thing I would caution is, name change doesn't mean that everything else changes. Okay? So you have to be very careful. Use name change as an opportunity to create a new culture. Opportunity to keep reminding people this is where we want to go. So that's a transformational opportunity. Make use of it. All the best.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. And as he mentioned, we all want a significance. We all have an identity need, right? So turn to the person next to you and say, you make a difference. Now tell yourself even louder, I make a difference. Very good. All right.